Franklin County Commissioners meeting, March 26th, 2019.
Good morning. It is 9 a.m. We're here for our March 26th board meeting. We have our full council of commissioners this morning, Mr. Beck, Didier, and Cook, and Keith Johnson, our administrator, and Karen, our clerk. So we do have an audience this morning. So if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I think, are we calling them, Keith? Or?
Yes, sir.
Our legislative representatives from Olympia will be on the phone with us.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jim, Zach.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
We can now.
Okay, thank you. This is Keith Johnson with the Franklin County Commissioners meeting. We have the full commissioners team here, and you are on next on our agenda, so I'll turn the time to you.
Morning, Zach.
Well, hope you guys are having a great day over there. It's nice and sunny over here, at least the weather is. A little bit gloomy on the hill with the budget, but we're kind of wading through that. The budget did come out yesterday. We're still trying to get through it. Obviously, you got hundreds of pages of stuff, so we'll have more update on that as we come through. Long story short, it's not real friendly to county government. One of the things that they're doing a lot of right now is they're happy to pass policy, but the funding is contingent upon the budget, and so that means they're happy to pass these policies for different things that we're going to have to do as counties, and they may or may not fund them, which means they're not going to fund them, most likely. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here, at Wasack, and just all the way through the whole system. The main priorities, whether it be indigent defense or any of those, tilt funding or anything like that, we're definitely running into some stumbling blocks in terms of the financing part of it. And we keep telling people there's not money in the budget, but that's kind of the misnomer there. There's really not the priority in the budget right now. And we're just not, the counties just aren't the priority for the legislators. So I think working on that, perception, the perception of the counties has always been a problem. So we're working on that. A lot of the other stuff that's happening, they're pushing forward with the H-2A, which is the Farm Worker Housing Program, not Farm Worker Housing, but the licensing program basically for farm workers, and it's relatively expensive, especially for the agricultural producers in the rural areas. When they're funding that program, because it is a fee-based program, they're moving forward with the wrongful death bill, which does put a lot of burden down onto the counties, and it really exposes and opens up the possibility of lawsuits, frivolous or otherwise, for the county, and it opens up your exposure. The PILT conversation, I'm sure you guys saw the letter and information coming out that Paul Jewell put out. He's working that real hard, doing a good job. We're trying to support him as much as we can. Some of the other stuff that is moving, we're talking about firearms bills. I've got a bunch of them up here, so bear with me. I'm going to go through the ones that have been moving and at least have changed houses. So the first one, we've got undetectable or untraceable firearms, which means, somebody makes one at home or files off the serial number. That's made it from the House and sitting in the Senate committee right now. There is a hearing on today at 10 o'clock on that one. They got an executive session scheduled for the 28th. Then we got, oh dear, I didn't mind the deal. Hold on. There we go. All right.
Zach, what's the bill number?
That bill number is 1739. It's an Attorney General request bill. Then we've got 1225.
Hey, Zach,
Which is, yes, sir.
do you recall in 1739 whether there's any retroactivity?
1739, is it retroactive? I did not see that it was retroactive, but I'd have to go back and read the whole thing to see, but I don't think that it is retroactive.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of substitutes here.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I don't see anything that says retroactive on it. It just prohibits the manufacture, assembly, repair, purchase, sale, or possession of an undetectable or untraceable firearm or its parts.
Well, possession makes it retroactive unless it's
It does make it retroactive, and so
unless there's a waiver in there. Okay.
And right now, it doesn't have any waiver that I see. And it does authorize the seizure of undetectable or untraceable firearms by law enforcement. So, and really what they're going after, I think, is these guys that are making, the 3D printed guns at home. That really seems to be going after.
I think that's what they're talking about. I think they're going after a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. It does become a little bit problematic. Specifically if you're talking about something that may be, an old rifle from the Civil War or before, or you're looking at something that's home built, like a pistol or something, a flintlock or something like that. I mean, I think that by this bill, that would probably be undetectable firearm. Don't know how you hide it, but there you go. Let's see, so 1225 is the next one that we're looking at, and that one basically is talking about when law enforcement responds to a domestic violence incident, they are able to confiscate firearms for safekeeping by the department. They do have to return those firearms unless, for some reason, they're returning them to a felon or, legally they cannot. But it does say that they are to confiscate those firearms. That one is in the Senate Law and Justice Committee. It does not have a hearing date scheduled yet. The next one is 5434, and that one is restricting possession of weapons in certain locations. And that one is being actually, oddly enough, the library districts are opposed to this particular bill because it would prohibit some of the functions that they have at libraries, where they bring in old firearms for the basically historical value. And they put on shows like that that would restrict firearms in libraries. And, everybody thought that was great, but the libraries don't want it. So it has moved into the House. It's in the Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee. They don't have a hearing date scheduled, but it is in the House. So, and it came out of the Senate on a 26-21 line. So it was not necessarily a party line vote there. The other one that we had talked about was the concealed pistol license training requirements. It looks like that one's dead, so we don't have to worry about those ones. We've got 1465, which talks about requirements for pistol sales or transfers. That one is in the Senate. It has had a hearing yesterday and has an executive schedule or session scheduled for the 28th. And basically what this one is it talks about, modifies the requirements for the firearm dealer to deliver a pistol to the owner or person purchasing it. And basically it requires, it talks about if they deliver a pistol to somebody who has a concealed pistol license. and it's just a single point of contact for the background check if you have the concealed pistol license. There's another one when I go to the end of my little deal. They have a bill here. This one is 5508, which is in the House now, and it has a hearing scheduled for today in Civil Rights and Justice and an executive session for the 28th. This one talks about if you are going to purchase any sort of a pistol or anything that would require a background check, all it does is says that, hey, instead of just doing the state, the state patrol background check, they have to run you through the federal database as well. So that's what that one does. There is 5954, that's the bump stop buyback bill. Already passed, went into effect, it's signed, and they're buying them back right now by the hundreds. And you can find the schedule for those buyback programs online. They did Seattle this last week. I think they're doing Spokane this week. And then a bunch of spots in between. So, in terms of firearms, that's where we are right now.
Zach, how many county clients do you guys have now?
We have 10.
And of those 10, have you gotten feedback from any of them that they support 1739, which is the firearms, the possession of untraceable firearms?
No one is supporting any of the firearms bills from the rural counties that we represent currently.
So none of your clients are supporting it. Okay.
No.
So then follow-up question, what are you guys doing to kill 1739?
Everything we possibly can. Part of the problem we've got on that is it's got a lot of support behind it, and it could very, very, very easily come out of committee on a party line vote. It could come out of the Senate on a party line vote, and it's very difficult.
So do you have any friends in the Democrat caucus?
You do. We do. So one of the things that's been happening...
Hang on.
But
Have you talked to your friends in the Democrat caucus about 1739?
John, we have talked to quite a few different people about not just 1739, but we've obviously expressed that we do not like. On the rural side, all of our counties are right now opposed to the firearms legislation. One of the things that's going on over here with the budget and with the large majority for the Democratic side is a lot of people are making, it appears, and we're obviously surmising this because we're not in caucus, but it appears that there are a lot of deals being made already because legislators that, say, have in the past supported an issue and it's one of their fundamental points are voting against those issues. And vice versa. They fundamentally oppose an issue. They're voting for those. And a lot of stuff is coming out of both houses, and that either whether it's committee or off of the floor, with really, really strange votes going on. And what's happening is the Democratic caucus internally, very specifically on things such as climate change and then the revenue packages, where they're going to raise taxes and how and who's going to have to pay these taxes and exemptions even more. They're split. And so even though the D side has a sizable majority and can pass whatever they want right now, they're split internally. So there's a lot of internal jostling going on behind the scenes. And we're not even privy to that. It's just we're here every day and you kind of see how they're voting. So it's making things very difficult to either support or oppose and get a good feel for how that's going. In terms of these firearms things, obviously you saw the one with the bump stock buyback. That was a very hot button topic, and they were very, very motivated to move that along.
So Zach, you said it's very difficult to support or oppose these bills. You mean for you as our representative?
No, not for us, but as the legislator.
Okay, so I've spent a fair amount of time in those halls over there as well, and we both know that if they don't hear from us, it makes it even easier to discount our concern. So I just want to be sure that you're talking to all of the potential swing votes on 1739 in particular, as well as all the gun bills, but especially 1739.
Absolutely. And what would be really helpful for us as well.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll do this.
Absolutely. They see us all the time.
No,
If
but
you guys could
you and I can
together,
go. You and I can go do this tomorrow. You're on.
No, absolutely. But if you could put together also some sort of a written, say written testimony, or even just rather a written letter from the commissioners there, and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We and our constituents oppose these bills, and these ones specifically. That might be very beneficial to have something they can hold on to, put their hot hands on, and see it right in front of them. Because once we walk out of their office, we're gone, and they're on to the next one. So that would be really helpful as well.
Zach, this is Bob. Do you have any background on 5923? Crab board loan?
That bill is moving along. It is moving. They had a hearing on it on the 21st, actually in the House, and it looks like they're probably going to exec it. One of the things with that is it really doesn't cost a lot of money for the state, and it is it's a revolving fund is how they have it set up. So that would be very, very, it's going to be kind of indicative of the assistance fund that we used to be able to have, the trust fund.
Public Works.
It's going to be very similar to that and operate very much the same way. Obviously, you have to have some sort of an emergency, and they define what those emergencies are.
But the state's not appropriating any money for it the way it sounds.
That is what we've been seeing. This is a great example of where they're happy to pass the policy, but then they do it contingent to financing. And right now, like we said, we are just not a priority for them.
Yeah.
And it's I'll tell you what, everybody up here, the Wasatch staff and us, and everybody who possibly can, all the county lobbyists are in the same boat right now, doing the very best we can to try and get the legislature to understand.
Yeah.
And, right now their priority really seems to be mental health, housing, homeless, a lot of the issues that are in downtown Seattle, to be quite honest about with it.
Sounds
and that's a lot of what we're seeing right now.
Thanks.
So, Zach, Senate Substitute 5812 is the ADU bill, the accessory dwelling units. Do you have any status on that?
So let's see where we are right now. Right now, scheduled for a hearing tomorrow. We'll have a better update for you after that.
What time's the hearing tomorrow?
The hearing tomorrow is 8 a.m. in local government house.
House local government?
Yep.
Okay.
Jim, Zach, this is Clint Didier. Got a couple questions. Senate Bill 5883, weight load of farm vehicles. What can you tell me on that one?
That one has been a very, very interesting journey so far. Right now, they've amended it so many times that pretty much everybody who's been involved with it at this point is saying we want to kill Bill. Because they've perverted it so much from what it originally was, trying to make everybody happy. It's not what it was. It's not what it was intended to be. And then you've got your local sheriffs and even some of the state patrol coming in and saying, well, we give these guys a couple of passes for the farmers,
Yeah.
And already. And so why are you going to give us a bill telling us, how many passes we can give them, kind of thing. They're looking at it as more work, basically, more paperwork. So not sure exactly how that one's going to go, but I do know that a lot of people initially for it are now opposing it and just saying, just let it die.
Okay. And then House Bill 1829 is trying to separate the local collected taxes and what's coming in from the state on the Veterans Assistance Levy.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
That one is scheduled for a hearing in Ways and Means that passed out of Senate Local Government Committee, and its hearing is tomorrow at 3:30 in Ways and Means. So again, this is another one that has money in it, and that's probably going to put a pretty good damper on that bill.
Okay.
At least until we get down to the last little bit here.
All right, and the last one I got to question you on is Senate Bill 5947. This is the climate change grants to farmers. And we have 4 Republicans that voted for this. Judy Warnick of Moses Lake was a co-sponsor of the bill and voted for it. Where are we at on this thing?
This one right now is in the House, and it's scheduled for a hearing next Thursday at 3:30 in Ag and Natural Resources. It came out with 32 yeas and 15 nays and 2 excused.
On March 6th, yep.
Yep, and so we'll see how it comes through on the House. Any of this stuff, you know, obviously with sustainable farms, this one has been a really interesting topic of discussion. On Fridays we meet with the agricultural lobby group, and they don't quite know what to do with this particular bill. So, I mean, in general, there's quiet support for it, I guess.
From who? Because it says in the Capitol Press article that all the farm groups are against it.
Well, and they, in the legislature, I'm saying,
okay.
There's quiet support for it, even though the farm groups are against it. Senator McCoy, and he's causing quite a bit of noise over here on several of his bills. This may end up being a bargaining chip where he lets this one go and gets some of his other ones. So I think this one is a much smaller fry for him. So we'll see how it goes here on the 28th, and then we can have a little bit more information for you.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I think with that, gentlemen, we're slated to move on to our next call here in about a minute and a half. Is there any final thoughts you guys have for us, or questions or comments? And
Thanks for what you do for us.
How's your schedule look tomorrow afternoon and Thursday?
Tomorrow afternoon and Thursday, it's the WASAC steering committee and activities for that. And other than that, we are relatively open. We have a few other meetings scheduled, but those are sporadic.
Okay. Well, I'll be there for the WASAC LSC meetings, and let's see if we can carve out some time to go knock some doors on some of these bills.
Sounds good. Good idea.
Okay.
We will be in. So are you coming in tomorrow or?
Yeah, probably tomorrow, depending on schedule.
Okay. Well, let us know.
No later than
you're
tomorrow.
here.
No later than tomorrow morning.
Got it. All right. Well, let us know when you're here, and otherwise we'll just see you at the steering committee and go from there.
Okay, Zach.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, that brings us to our Ben Franklin Transit presentation. The general manager had a family issue that they begged off today, and I think I see Karen has got it listed for the 30th. So we'll move on to public comment. Anybody like to speak to us this morning? Seeing nothing. We have payroll and warrant registers.
Mr. Chairman, before we move to these, if you don't mind, I'd like to make a quick comment on the Ben Franklin Transit presentation. We all got the read-ahead materials, and my guess is that you all picked up on it, but if you didn't, take a look at the, not ridership, but the boarding numbers and how they're presented. They show good increases year over year for the van pools and for Dial-A-Ride. But when they get to the main transit operation of buses, they switch from an annual reporting to a quarterly, and they only show us the fourth quarter. So I want us to all be focused on that and to ask for the annualized numbers so that we can see, because if you were to just look at it at a glance, it would give the impression that participation in all of their programs is up, and in fact, that's not the case.
Part of that is the fact that they just had a complete ride or route change in September. So that affected the ridership. So
I would ask them to give me credit for being able to factor that in as I look at the numbers, but I'm going to ask them about the annual numbers if somebody else doesn't. So just wanted to point that out. Not a big deal, but worth noting. Okay, moving on with payrolls, warrants. We'll get them in the right order here. Okay, we have three. Move for approval of salary clearing payroll and emergency management payroll as presented in the total amount of $736,611.40. Know for the record that this has been reviewed and signed off by two representatives of the auditor's office.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have County Road and Motor Vehicle in the amount of $187,377.92. Move for approval as presented, and note for the record, it also has been reviewed by two representatives of the auditor's office.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, we have fund expenditures. Move for approval of fund expenditures in the amount of $612,595.82 as presented. Note for the record, it's been reviewed and signed by the county administrator and two representatives of the county auditor's office.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, are you ready for the consent?
Please.
Not hearing any calls for removal of any items for separate consideration, I'll move for approval of the consent agenda as presented with discussion.
I second with discussion on topics 3 and 7.
Okay. Discussion?
On item 3, I'm looking at the increases here on the salary, and we got a 2% increase on 1/1/19, 7/1/19, another 2% increase, and then 3% increase on 1/1/20, and 3%. This was all discussed in a previous meeting, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And we also have eliminate sick leave and add holiday article. I'd like that, Article 10, I'd like that explained more. I don't understand what eliminate sick leave. We're not going to have sick leave for these people anymore?
I think there was also an increase on 1/1/21, am I correct? Another 3? Okay.
It's not listed. 1/1/21?
Yeah, I think there's 4
Oh, it is.
increases.
It's listed. 1/1/21.
2, 2, 3, and 3. Sorry,
Yes.
just wanted to clarify the record.
What is the eliminate sick leave and add holiday article?
So if you look at,
Hey, Carly, it really helps when they're transcribing for minutes if we could please have you a little closer to a microphone. I know how much you love spending time up here with us.
I spend a lot. You must enjoy it. If you look at Article 8, we've rewritten the vacation and annual leave to introduce paid time off. So paid time
Okay.
off replaces vacation and sick leave,
Oh, okay, so that's paid time off.
consistent with every other contract that we've
Okay.
signed this year.
All right, well, that sort of explains it.
Yeah. Yeah, they still have sick leave. The law requires us to
I was going to
give them
say,
time
how
for
do we get away
sick
from
leave.
sick leave?
Yeah, no.
It's going into the category of paid time off.
Paid time off to give employees flexibility for
Gotcha.
how to manage their leave.
Okay, thanks, Carly.
Yeah, you betcha.
Those are my questions. And on Article, or consent agenda number 7 on the roads, Craig, if you could, I'd just like to talk to you about the bridges. You've got these bridge inspections here, and I know a lot of these bridges have little previous discussion on it, but what is our timetable on, I see a lot of repair on bridges. Is that all going to happen this year?
Yeah, the minor repairs we will try and get done.
And then I'm looking at the ages of these bridges, and I'm seeing some that are from 54.
Yes.
The one that I'm concerned about was in 64. These are all wooden bridges, and it says in here that a lot of the railings are being tore off because of the size of the equipment, of course, that the farm community is evolving to.
Yep.
And I'm just curious as to when are we going to be looking at replacing some of these old bridges that I'm looking at gaps on the planking of Holly.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where there's a half inch and better on some of these planks. And then I've noticed in one of the bridges one of the planks is broke, it says.
Yeah.
And we, of course, we're looking at possibly vehicles maybe dropping a tire through one of these if we don't get them replaced.
Right.
And we're going to work on these this year?
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. With those kind of repair issues and stuff, we get on as soon as we can with those. We don't delay those. As far as like replacement is a different issue.
Right.
That takes a lot of time, and unfortunately, the way that bridge funding is structured currently, you'll notice that on the notes on those bridges that you'll see the term functionally obsolete.
Right.
That's railing issues, width issues, and things like that. Unfortunately, right now in the funding environment, functionally obsolete bridges don't really get a lot of attention. The key issue for getting a bridge replaced through the BRAC or federal funding system is if it is structurally deficient, and it has to be below a certain number, and that number can change depending on the pot of money that they have, where they're going to cut that off.
I did not see any of that. Was there any?
We have very few, and that's it. We have a blessing and a curse in the environment here in Franklin County. Wooden bridges last a long time here because of the weather conditions that we have here, and the fact that we're over canals and we don't have a lot of natural, change in channel or anything like that will scour or operate against these bridges. So our wooden bridges have a much longer than designed lifespan to them. It's typical for a wooden bridge to last from 50 to 75 years. And mostly on the 50 is where they're really kind of work. Most of these were designed. So most of them, you can see age-wise, they've lived it. But structurally, they're still capable. But so we post a lot because the older they get, the less resilient they are to loads, and especially the loads that wooden bridges really don't like to get the sharp load, the acute load on it.
Right. And that's what my concern is with our industries and these big trailers. I mean, they got some of these long trailers now. They're hauling massive amounts of loads of potatoes and onions out, and they're going over these bridges. And then, of course, I hire a guy to move my D9 around. When that's on a trailer, he can't cross some of these bridges because of the load limitations. So it's one of these things that it's concerning because of the size of the equipment that we got going up and down the road anymore. We're going to have to do something here. And then these are all federal funds?
Mostly that's where our bridge replacement funds come from.
Okay.
And as I said, they focus a lot on the structurally deficient bridges, not the functionally obsolete. That's why, Taylor Flats Bridge that we're doing right now, the widening there, that is actually came from a different source. That did not come out of typical bridge money. That was a combination of local funds plus, federal funds from a different source. Because there just frankly wasn't any money that would earmark for bridges for that kind of project.
Okay.
So it takes a fair amount of resources to.
And I just want to say, heard back from a lot of the people on Bellevue, good job on the repair. They just wish it would have been done quicker, but they are very happy with what happened and how quickly you got it done in 2 days. So thank you, because you've made a lot of people happy.
We try.
So thanks.
What did you learn as you were working on Bellevue over there, I mean, there were still some questions about what it was going to take. What did you actually do for the repair?
Well, we excavated out about 1.5 feet of the existing road bed, and we laid down some fabric, and then on top of that we laid what's called GeoGrid, which is just a heavy plastic grid, and then put some heavier rock on that. That helps. It's very good at stabilizing areas like that. So we did that in both spots.
What did you use for the heavier rock?
It was probably 1.5 inches or better for that, and then we layered that with base course and then finished it off with top course.
So previously, somebody had said there was 8 or 9 inches of base in there already. It sounded like it might have been a little on the small side.
We rebuilt the road in 2009, and it was designed to get 9 inches of rock in there. The one area that did not really get replaced was right there at the bridge, because it was already there and it blended into it. So that particular area
had base, but it wasn't new.
It wasn't very much.
It was small.
It was a small amount, yeah, a couple inches, 3 inches perhaps.
So what we previously heard, that there was 8 or 9 inches of base in there, turned out not to be correct.
In that particular area, the rest of the road.
Well, that particular area is the area that you repaired, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure as to where exactly they cut off, where we blended into the bridge before, and I
Sure. So looking back on it now, what do you think the culprit was? Insufficient base?
Well, it played a part in it. You know, the soils were, pretty clay, like they absorbed some water, and it was kind of. We've seen failures like this, like at Russell. We had that in 2017. We got a clay pocket that got saturated, and then they just move around. And if you stabilize them, then they behave.
And when you agree that those ramps, when they were constructed, they used the spoilage out of the digging of the canal?
Well, that's speculation on my part. I have no idea, because that was done.
That's why the clay was in there.
That's my guess.
And Mr. Cook had said, Chairman Cook, that the webbing on the asphalt allowed the water to penetrate, and that's what made everything perk and broke it down.
Yeah, it's part of it. I mean, the water can come from several different places, but having the top of the road, it was redone in 2009, so it was about due for its chip seal. We've been spreading these out, and on local roads, we really try and spread it out as long as we can.
And just for the record, I asked you previous to the meeting, but the areas in front and behind where you repaired, you don't think we're going to have a problem there?
We're going to keep an eye on them right now. I thought that it was fiscally responsible to take care of those 2 areas right now, and we'll keep a watch on the rest of the road and see how it plays out. Because I think if it does deteriorate more, it's going to take more than just a patch and repair. We're going to have to look at it in more of a project type of basis.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
What kind of life do you put on the work you just did?
Well, the patches should last for a good long while. I mean, we put a fair amount of base in there, plus they're stabilized with the fabric and grid. I anticipate those should last a good 10, 15 years.
One more. Did you put gravel around the cable that was in that roadway, or what did you do around the cable?
They're very careful with it.
Yeah, they bed that with gravel so that the base doesn't, those sharp points don't
it's
work
not
in
the only
it.
road we have in the county. It's got stuff in it. So
I noticed that you guys did an excellent job. Didn't get into it at all and exposed it well.
Not that I didn't get any phone calls, so I think we did all right. No, they're very careful about that. We always go out and get locates, and we keep track and make sure that we don't try not to interfere. We don't like to hit them. It doesn't make anybody happy.
You don't want to hit fiber optic.
No, you really don't want to do that. Not fun.
Just what Spendy does it?
It can get that way, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, one comment on, I'll just pick item 4. And it's not the issue of the package, it's an opportunity. This is the one from juvenile justice and it has to do with the personal services contract. But what I want to point out is under fiscal impact, this is something that the Bi-County operation has done for some time, and I think it's a great example of how we ought to do these. When it talks about fiscal impact, it gives an amount not to exceed, but then it goes on to say no supplemental required expenditures included in the approved budget. Sometimes we'll get packages from the county that'll say no fiscal impact, and what they're saying is it's already planned for, it's already allowed for in the budget, but there is a fiscal impact because we're actually increasing spending. And so I want to hold this up as an example for what I would appreciate seeing from our county packages, which is if it says no fiscal impact, that means there's no change in the spending up or down. The fact that we have enough in the budget to cover it doesn't eliminate the fact that there's still a fiscal impact. It's a bit of a subtlety, but it's an important one.
Distinction between a budgetary and a fiscal.
So I saw this language and I thought, this is great. It tells me the amount. It tells me that we don't need any additional, and it's already been included in the budget. And those are just a good example to hold up, so I thought I'd use it. That's it.
No further?
No further.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moves us on to Keith, please.
Yeah, the only official item for board action this morning is a appointment to our Planning and Shoreline Commission. We received an application from Kent McMullen to be named to that board. Talked a little bit individually, I believe, with the commissioners, but certainly answer any questions you have about his application. I think all of you know Mr. McMullen personally, has a long history of residence in Franklin County, been involved in a number of things, particularly in the agriculture community, knows the county very well, and we believe would be a good addition to our planning commission. So offer that for your consideration.
And Mr. Chairman, if there, I'd like to speak to this one briefly. If you read the state statute, it says that appointments to the Planning Commission shall, not should, shall be divided as equally as mathematically possible among the commissioner districts, which would presumably allow for 2 seats in each district and then a final 7th one at large. And there's a bit of a misnomer in our county policy that I've asked Mr. Bratton to look at and to propose a change. It gave an implication that it was necessary for members of that planning commission to live in the unincorporated Franklin County. As you can imagine, in districts like mine, which are predominantly and soon to be 100% incorporated area, that would then make it impossible to comply with the state statute, and therefore I don't believe the statute ever intended that they had to be in the unincorporated portion. I do think there's value, and with respect to Mr. McMullen, what I especially appreciate about his application is that not only did he farm for many years in the North County, but as I recall, I think he's got an ag degree from WSU, and he recently lived in unincorporated Franklin County in a donut hole, which has subsequently been annexed. So he's had experience in a whole bunch of land use issues in areas unincorporated, incorporated, annexation. And I think he's an excellent candidate, and I'm delighted to be able to have him available as one of the 2 from District 1.
With that, I would entertain a motion to...
Mr. Chairman, happy to move for Resolution 2019-093, appointing Kent McMullen to the Planning Commission.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next items are just kind of for your information, update you on status of a couple of issues we've talked about. One, the shoreline reconveyance legislation happening at the federal level. Draft of that language is going to Representative Newhouse's office this week. They hope to be able to add that to the Defense Authorization Act and get that approved, but all of the different governmental entities in the Tri-Cities area have submitted are in the process of submitting their edits to that proposed legislation, and I have identified the parcels which they hope to be included in that transfer. So that's progressing fairly rapidly at the moment, but it is moving forward. Secondly, just update the board that I've had some discussions with my counterparts in Benton County regarding the future of our Department of Human Services. They are agreeable to continuing a relationship. They do not want to have a bi-county structure like we've had in the past. They have found that to be problematic from a managerial standpoint, but we have at least agreed in concept. We haven't put anything in writing. We've still got some discussions to take place about the future, but we have some agreement, I think, in concept of Benton County acting as an administrative agency for the department. Franklin County would still have control of Franklin County funds, and we expect a requirement to be able to direct policy for execution of those programs within Franklin County, that they would be required to solicit our input and our approval for programs within Franklin County. But in order to avoid the likelihood of fraud, double dipping, whatever you want to call it, amongst some programs that really operate better on a regional level, we do think that there is a good opportunity to have a check and balance of running some of those programs through a consolidated office. So we've got some details still to work out, and we do want to make sure that Franklin County's interests are protected, that our ability to apply policy for Franklin County is held with this board and not conceded to someone else who's not elected by Franklin County citizens. But we think that with the proposal that we're looking for, we can make that work without increasing a cost to Franklin County. The funds for operating our programs as well as Benton County programs come out of the grants and the county funds that are managed in that office. But from a administrative standpoint, we think we can make this work where we can continue these programs without disruption to the citizens, and still be able to meet the future expectations of both boards in terms of how these services are delivered to our community. So that's just kind of an update of where those discussions lie, and I expect that we will be bringing a more formal proposal before the board shortly. There's a number of grant applications that need to be initiated in the next couple of weeks, and so Mr. Sullivan needed some will be needing some direction about our plans. I wanted to make sure that we didn't miss deadlines for the application of grant funds from the state. Certainly happy to answer any questions you may have, but it's kind of where we are right now.
Thoughts or questions on the issue?
Do you foresee any financial impact on us with this above what we've already?
No, we're not currently incurring a separate cost for that.
Not yet.
And I don't anticipate that we will. The initial conversations with Benton County are that they do not expect to charge Franklin County for that. It'll still be paid for out of our
state
DHS money
received. That Human Services receives.
So two observations. One, the issue of liability and cost of the county is very real, as we just saw within the last 90 days with a civil trial, which resulted in $1.5 million judgment and probably $1 million in lawyer fees by the time it's all done. And if we have an arrangement where Benton County is handling the administrative oversight of the program. That would include personnel, hiring and firing, and so forth. That raises a few questions, and one of them that I would certainly expect to see in any agreement is that Franklin County would be indemnified, would be immune to any claims, would be protected by Benton County against any claims for their administrative actions. If we're going to forfeit our state administrative fees to them to pay for that function, I don't want us to be drawn in by the fact that it's our share of fees somehow makes us liable under joint and several. It's not a joint program anymore, and they're acting as sole actors. We don't have a say in those administrative functions, and we ought not be legally liable for them. In this recent lawsuit, we're legally liable because it was a joint program, and in that case, they still, and we were paying them for administrative oversight, and we still got drawn into it. So we need indemnification for actions that they take. And the other is that we need an agreement that allows for concurrence. When these funds come in from the state, as I understand it, they likely will not be earmarked by county. The county's specific funds are 2060 funds and 2163 funds and veterans funds. The funds that come in from the state will likely be in one pool, and that affords some benefit for the Human Services Director in doing maybe larger scale, more efficient projects. But if you're going to do a very large scale project in one county or the other, you're likely going to be using funds from both counties. And so those projects that use those what are essentially by-county funds need to have concurrence from both counties.
Correct.
We may not be setting policy, we may not be hiring the staff, but we have to have some opportunity to ensure that Franklin County's receiving projects that represent its fair share of the state funding.
Yeah, Kyle and I spoke yesterday about initiating some more quality reporting that shows distribution by county, how those funds are being used, so that we have a better idea that, counties are fairly represented by population, even though, as you said, it doesn't allocate that way from the state, but we certainly want to make sure that it's not all going to one location.
Well, the State Department of Commerce has already indicated that they're willing to disperse those funds by county or jointly.
Yeah.
I would be happy to have them done jointly with identification, that this much is Franklin, this much is Benton, and that doesn't preclude us from combining some of those funds for joint projects that both counties agree with.
Right.
I just don't want a situation where we've ceded our administrative authority and large projects are being done using funds from both counties without us having a voice.
I agree.
A fair and equal voice. I don't think that's an unreasonable request. As for the rest of it, it's fine.
Speaking of human services, where are we with the veterans?
So Mr. Halterman will be is scheduled to be here at the meeting next week. They received a proposed policy from Sheila Berry just before she left the job. She's now moved over to juvenile justice. The board reviewed it, made some recommended changes. Sheila made those changes about a week ago, and were it not for their schedules and their inability to be here today, they would have brought it today, but it'll be here next week as the recommended policy for the board to accept or offer comments and changes. And you'll see that in your read-ahead package today, or this week, excuse me.
Anything else?
Well, Keith, do you think we should draft a letter for Commissioner Peck to take with him over there on these gun bills? All three commissioners signed that were against all the gun bills that were listed or talked about today. I think
You certainly can.
Jim and Zach both thought that would be a plus for us to have and deliver it to these people, and I'm willing to sign it, saying that we oppose all these gun bills. If that'll help at all. Commissioner Peck, your thoughts?
I'm up for doing anything that helps at all. Even if I don't think it'll help, I'm still willing to give it a shot. I don't think that that's likely to move the needle at all. What we really need, in my view, is for our representatives from the 9th and the 16th to commit to us that they will do everything they can to leverage their partners in the House and the Senate to move the needle. My experience has been that a letter from one county really isn't going to get it done. So my suggestion would be to do a letter as you suggest, but instead of an open letter, a letter to all of the 9th and 16th representatives, asking them to do anything, everything they can do with their contacts to defeat these bills. I think that would be have a higher likelihood of a successful outcome, although I prefaced all this by saying I really don't know, because when you're dealing with folks over there, it's kind of a wild card. I have already reached out to friends that I have in the House and the Senate, expressed deep concern, and asked them to consider using whatever chips they may have with other legislators to persuade them to take a back seat on some of these bills. So happy to do a letter. I think that our voice carries a lot more weight with our 9th and 16th legislators, and their voice carries more weight with the legislature. So I think we need to invoke them to go fight this battle on our behalf.
Yeah. Okay. Well, personally, I would invite the 8th also, because they're good partners with us.
Happy to do that as well.
So we can do that. Okay. Time in the agenda for another public comment. Anybody like to speak to us? Any commissioners, anything else for the good of the board?
I'll be heading over for Wassac. There's the usual Wednesday evening and Thursday morning meetings. And I'll get over there as soon as I can tomorrow to visit some folks before the Wassac meeting. And then I plan to stay after the Thursday meeting and knock on more doors and see who we can find that might be open to our views on some of these bills.
Commissioner? All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.